Welcome to C-Vine News. You're listening to The Truth with your host, Linda Forsyth, and the man with the coolest name in radio, Pimpy.
Welcome to C-Vine News Network. This is Linda Forsyth. I am here with my co-host, Pimpy. Today we have a fantastic guest that is a constitutional sheriff that was actually recommended to me by Sheriff Mack, who was the individual we actually interviewed last week. And who we have on is from the state of Washington, and it is Sheriff Songer. He's a sheriff of Klickitat County. He's been a sheriff for 51 years in law enforcement, has a master's degree in criminal justice. He served 4 years as the chief of police in Elko, Nevada. He received a Constitutional Sheriff of the Year award from Sheriff Richard Mack, who is the actual president of the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. Welcome, Sheriff Songer.
Well, thanks for having me on.
Well, let me tell you, we heard some very disturbing things going on in the state of Washington. And so I asked Sheriff Mack, who is a constitutional sheriff that we can have on air that knows how to kick butt, so to speak, and is going to stand up for we the people, the patriots. And he strongly recommended you. There are some of the things, well, you know what? Why don't you tell me what it is that Governor Jay Inslee has been mandating and what it is that you either refuse to enforce or you feel that it is justifiable?
Well, it started back in 2018, actually, on I-1639, the gun legislation that Governor Inslee and Rob Ferguson, the Attorney General, was pushing, in my opinion, was violating citizens' rights under the Second Amendment. And so I stood up against him at that time, told him I would not be arresting citizens for their nonsense that they passed. They said, well, it's the law, you got it. And I said, well, it may be the law that you've written or passed, but the bottom line is it's a law that conflicts with the Constitution. And when it does that, that law is null and void or is unenforceable, unenforce it. And of course, they don't really like that but the governor doesn't have much choice. I'm an elected sheriff of the citizens of Klickitat County, and the governor is not my boss, nor is the Attorney General, and our county commissioners is not my boss. The only boss I have is the citizens I serve, period. So that was my first run-in with this idiot governor we've got. The second time was when he started coming out with mandates on masks and shutting businesses down to some degree where they go out of business, telling you that you only have so many people in church and you couldn't sing. No singing. And that's just nonsense, idiot. So anyway, I came out and I told not only our citizens, but I made it clear to him that I will not enforce any of his proclamation, mandates, or any of that. It's not law, even though they like to try to convince you it is. That if a citizen wants to wear a mask, have at it. You don't want to wear a mask, don't wear one. Social distance. And then the vaccination, most recently, mandatory vaccination, which is Nazi Germany, basically, yes. Telling you that where in the hell does a governor or any government official get off telling you what to put in your body? That's an individual choice under the Constitution. That's your right. And they're violating that Constitution, in my opinion, by forcing people, twisting their arms. You're not going to have a job if you don't get vaccinated. Well, that's just overreach by the government. And I will not be part of that. I will stand up for our citizens. If they choose not to get vaccinated, I'm there to support them. And those who get vaccinated, that's up to them. And I've told my deputies the same thing. you want to get vaccinated, have at it. If you don't have to. And that goes for the vaccination as well as the mask wearing and all of this other nonsense. If you think about it, actually the mask wearing is detrimental to your health. You're breathing in carbon monoxide and all kinds of crap. And you wear those all day long, you're shutting your brain off from oxygen. It's just not a good thing. But you think about this. You go into a restaurant, got you having a mask on, right? Because they're sheep, they're going to follow whatever the government dictates. So they go in, and then you sit down after you walked about 10 yards or whatever to a table, sit down and take your mask off. Because that virus was only going to attack you when you walk. That's how much.
It's a special virus.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes.
Well, here's the other thing. You ever see people at the grocery store? They wear their mask, but with their hands, they're handling everything. And I'm like, oh, yeah, there you go. That makes sense, people. There you go.
Well, my feeling, folks, is this is all by design. They've been very good, the government, at scaring the living hell out of them. Mm-hmm. And to the point that if you don't have a mask on and somebody that's drank the Kool-Aid here, they're going to jump you about, oh, you're killing people. You're going to kill your grandparents, or you're going to do this or that, because that's how they've been able to brainwash these people to the point of socialism. That's where they're headed with this. And people that don't believe that better pull their head out, because they are absolutely headed for socialism. And they chip away at your rights. If they can get you to wear a mask, if they can get you mandatory vaccination, and where does it stop? Now, the scary thing about our state, which is screaming blue state, the scary thing about that is by legislature, a governor can enact in other words, he can mandate certain things in emergencies. Right? Well, it's supposed to be when he set down that emergency mandate almost 2 years ago, that would run for 14 days.
Yes.
Then you go back to the legislature and you get permission to either extend it or shut it off. Well, our illustrious Democrat legislature have given him a green light. He can demand a state of emergency forever, doesn't have to be reviewed by the legislature. And he can demand it over anything, whatever he thinks might be a state of emergency. That's a dictator. Plain and simple, that's a dictator. And that's where he's headed.
Sheriff, have you heard of the Great Reset?
Pardon me?
Have you heard of the Great Reset?
Yeah.
Do you think this is all part of that Great Reset movement?
I do.
Me too.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And then you got idiot Biden, who stole the election. Yeah. He's up there making all these silly mandates. For example, his education czar came out, Garland, is it? Came out and said, we're going to have the FBI partnership with the local authorities at these school board meetings, because these parents are domestic terrorist groups, because they were getting wild in these meetings, right? Well, first of all, I've been waiting for the FBI to contact me. And when they do, I'm going to tell them, keep their butts out of our county. It's not a violation of federal law. If there's threats made by a parent, and I don't mean that we're going to recall you or you need to resign or those kind of things, that's not a threat. But if they threaten to commit bodily harm toward a school board member, or if a school board member threatens a parent, then we'll handle that as a threat and investigate that on a local jurisdiction level.
Yes, sir. We
don't need the FBI, the big law, to come in and start telling us how to run our operation, period. And so far, now don't get me wrong, I went to the FBI Academy in '83. Got a lot of respect for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. A lot of good FBI agents. But as far as I'm concerned, I always qualify it, in my opinion, that the FBI upper management, the upper end of it, is corrupt.
Yes.
Is corrupt. Now, they know damn well Biden Hunter is dirty as heck, along with his dad, Joe, and you don't see squat. These guys will not get invested. There'll be no indictments handed down.
No.
Because that's just the way it is. And they showed that with Hillary and that bunch. So, yeah, I get a little disappointed in the FBI. But
well, we witnessed them attempt a coup against a sitting president, and nothing happened to them. Everybody and their mama that's paying attention to half of what's going on knew who all the guilty parties were. What was going to happen to them? Nothing. So when we have these congressional hearings, people go, "Oh, it's a good thing." I go, "Why? It accomplishes nothing." I actually talked to Marjorie Greene real quick. She's like, "Well, we're going to have this congressional hearing," and I go, "And what? What does it accomplish?" That's the one. Now, you semi-pay attention over the years, but definitely in the past 5-6 years, I've been really paying attention to congressional hearings. They dig up all the dirt and they make recommendations, and nothing. They all protect their own. There's two Democrats and Republicans are two sides of the same evil coin. Let's just be honest. Don't get me wrong. You got one or two people in there that are legitimate, but they're just going to protect each other. They're not going to do anything to expose the other team. It's been that way for quite some time.
Well, I don't think it's a swamp. I think it's a sewer. And these people have existed in that for a number of years. They've scratched each other's back. You sign my bill, I'll sign yours. That game's been played forever. And unfortunately, it's all of us, the citizenry out here, they get the short end of the stick. But no, Biden with his stuff, and I heard, I don't know if this is true, but so I qualify it by that. But I heard the CDC control, disease control, that they're going to the science all the time. Now that firearms are now a hazard to your health. So you can see where they're headed with that, if that is true.
No, I think that's the last thing they need to do. I mean, they're pretty well on their way of implementing this great reset. But the one thing that's in their way is the fact that there's tens, if not hundreds of millions of armed citizens, and they're going to do whatever it takes to find an excuse to remove our arms. And right now you got people from Australia going, "Don't do it. We made that mistake. America, do not turn your arms over."
And once they get a right away from you, you're not going to get that. It's that simple. And and Second Amendment is close and dear to my heart. And I've had citizens come in and say, "Well, Sheriff, what are you going to do if they do come in and try to confiscate the feds, ATF, FBI?" I said, "Well, first thing I'm going to do is tell them to get the hell out of my county. Second thing I'm going to do is I'll call a public meeting and we'll get 600 or 700 citizens, raise their right hand, and I'll swear them in as special deputies. And we'll block roads off and everything else." So I don't think they want to get into that. One thing, being an old guy, you walked into a motel room where there's been cockroaches. What does cockroaches don't like? You turn that light on, they scream. So anytime that the government gets a lot of pushback and a lot of media attention, unfortunately, we've got a lot of fake media that are protected.
Yes.
But if they start getting a lot of media attention, that's like putting a light on for cockroaches. They're going to scatter. And they're going to back off with nonsense. What I'm saying is that American citizens better wake up. Because this is, I've had a guy say, "Well, Bob," he said, "the pendulum will swing one way, then it'll swing the other. It's too late for that nonsense." People believe in that, you're in a pipe dream. Because what's going to happen, sooner or later, you're not going to have those rights that you thought you had. And the more they get, they're indoctrinating our kids in school, destroying statues of our history and stuff. And these spineless politicians, like in
censorship,
Seattle, spineless mayors and prosecutors and stuff. Black Lives Matter and Antifa, in my opinion, is a terrorist organization, period. No question about it. And if anybody with any sense can Google that, Black Lives Matter, and look at their organization.
Brown shirts.
Yeah, they make no bones about it. They're market. They want to go communist. And so you have these people running around out there that are some of these corporations putting big money behind Black Lives Matter, which is unreal. But you don't see the FBI, Homeland Security, or any of them investigating Black Lives Matter or Antifa. No, they want to go after the parent that's concerned what their kid's being taught at a school board. That is ridiculous.
Well, Sheriff, here's what I remind people from BLM and Antifa. That is this. The brown shirts did the work for Hitler. And then we had what's called the Night of the Long Sword. So just keep that in mind, because you think you're on the right side of the team and you're doing all the dirty work. But then when the time comes and they're in total power, guess what? Yep. They're not going to favor you, the Night of the Long Swords, because you can't be trusted. If you betray your own people, how could they trust you not to betray them? You're dead.
No, spot on. You're spot on. That's exactly.
Sheriff Songer,
Yes.
I'm sorry. We have about 4 minutes before the commercial break, and I wanted to ask you a question to explain briefly before it starts, because after the commercial break, we're really going to get into some heavy stuff.
Sure.
Could you please explain to our listeners and viewers what the difference is between not only the sheriff's department and the police department, but what duties one has over the other? Because in the state of Washington, as you know, wasn't there an entire precinct and an entire block taken over by, was it Antifa or Black Lives Matter? Please help me remember. Where were the sheriffs?
Yeah, good point.
How does that work?
Good point. Seattle, well, first of all, let me say, and I've served in both positions. As a police chief, you serve at the pleasure of the mayor, or it depends on how the city charter is, the mayor and the city council. So if they don't like what you did, you're gone. You have no recourse. You're out of it. With an elected sheriff, they don't have that ability. I mean, your board of county commissioners can be all upset with you. The governor can be upset with you, which I'm sure he is. They can be upset with you. There ain't a damn thing they can do about firing, because you're elected by the people. That's who I work with. The people in this county is my boss, period. Not them, people. And so you have that distinction. Now you go to Seattle. Why I said spineless politicians like the mayor and city council.
Yeah. That
chief may want to go on charge and want to go arrest these people for looting and burning. But the mayor says, stand down, chief. And if that chief doesn't stand down, they'll pick somebody else. That chief. They don't have that ability with the sheriff. Now in King County, the problem is they went to what they call home rule. And under home rule, they can appoint different elected positions. And they have appointed the sheriff in King County. So he's just like a police chief, basically. He's appointed, and he can be let go at any time. He's not elected.
So there's not sheriff and police in the same county. That's why I was saying, where were the sheriffs when this was going, when the police were being told to stand down? Can't the sheriffs come in and do something?
Absolutely. And why they didn't, I have no idea, other than that's playing politics. They knew that the mayor and all of them was all upset and was supporting that kind of nonsense going on. And they probably out of politics. And I shouldn't say that, because I really don't. But I can tell you, if that happened in Clickitat County and a mayor of White Salmon or Goldendale or any of these said, no, chief, stand down, I'd have rolled in there. And because the sheriff ultimately has authority throughout the entire county, period. And if there's a police department, for some reason, that is corrupt, the sheriff can go in and take care of that. So the sheriff has that ability. So why the sheriff of King County didn't go, or Multnomah County in Portland, it just boggles my mind. Of course, I'm not there, and I'm not involved in all of their politics. But you would think that sheriffs would have common sense, because their first job, our job is to throw bad guys in jail. And we like to think we do a fair job of it. But our first job is what happens when the bad guy is the government. Your job as sheriff is to intervene, stand between the government and the citizen that's being violated.
Yes,
I have a feeling Sheriff Mack going around the U.S. and talking to the various sheriffs, I'm wondering how much of it they don't understand the constitutional end of things and what they could have done. I'm guessing because it sure seems like sheriffs are standing up now, that they're becoming a little bit more educated.
Yep.
Maybe that's not the right word, just understanding a little bit more about what they're.
We've had, I think I mentioned to you, Linda, out of 39 counties, we had 38 sign on with the Sheriff's Association letter to the governor stating that we will not enforce mandatory vaccination. Now, that's a pretty big block. That's almost in the. One of the sheriffs, the only reason he was on there, he hadn't officially been appointed sheriff yet, because his sheriff retired or whatever, and he took over, and he hadn't officially been elected or appointed. So he couldn't vote, but I know he would have voted our way. But the King County Sheriff, of course, because they are appointed, stayed away from that.
Well, let's go ahead and stop there, because I want to get into this in a lot more depth. That's part of what we were going to discuss this next time, because that is huge news. It has not been anywhere on mainstream media. The blue state of Washington, folks, is not quite so blue, apparently. Okay, everybody, hold on. We're going to be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you at risk of losing everything you have worked for all these years? Hi, this is attorney Ron Osk. If you are a business owner and have been impacted by the COVID-19 shutdown, you may be able to save your business and bring it back to life by filing a Chapter 13 bankruptcy or a small business Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Our office has over 38 years of experience with assisting businesses and their families to keep their assets and continue to make their living. The purpose of a Chapter 13 or Chapter 11 is not to liquidate your business as you would with a Chapter 7 bankruptcy. The purpose of a Chapter 13 or Chapter 11 bankruptcy is to restore your business to good health. Call us today to schedule a free phone or Zoom consultation, toll-free at 1-800-660-5608. That's 1-800-660-5608. Or visit our website at www.askbankruptcy.net.
Hello, Patriots. This is Linda Forsythe, and I am reaching out to you. This is a call to action. All those who love their country and want to see some change, this is your chance to be able to do something. So I'm requesting that you please go to the cvine.com website. That's c-vine.com website, and keep on top of all the various different news stories that all our volunteers post for you to keep you on top of the news. And then not only just watch and see what the news says, but do some fact checking. Make certain that everything is as it should be. Don't expect anybody to spoon feed to you the news. When you're there also, we request that you please sign up and become a member. The entire website is free of charge. There is not anything you need to pay to get to any part of this website or to interact with it. What we request is that you do a donation in becoming a member. It's a monthly member to be able to help with our expenses. Nobody gets paid. cvine.com, Cvine News Network, is a charitable trust. It is a foundation that was created for you, for we the people. And all of it is put together so we all can come together to give uncensored news, and we know what is the truth. The other thing I request is you please go to the section where you can go ahead and sign up as a volunteer. go ahead and donate your time. And we also have one-time donation. We also have a section for military tribunals. Remember, our volunteers, when the tribunals are going on, we send them, or even I go and watch them specifically, and we report on them, providing transcripts and so on. So hope to see you there. Keep in touch and sign up for our newsletter so I can write to you personally. And then also, heaven forbid, any of the social media goes down, then that might be an issue. At least we have a way to be able to keep in touch with you, to be able to keep close. Go out there, Patriots, stand strong, hold the line.
Hey folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings in their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor, protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code PIMPY, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash, as well as inflation.
AM 590, The Answer.
Welcome back to CBI News Network, We the People, AM 590. We are here having a wonderful discussion with Sheriff Songer in Washington State and our co-host, Pimpy. The last thing that was mentioned just before we went on our station break was Sheriff Songer mentioned out of the 39 sheriffs, 39 counties in Washington State, there was only one that did not sign a letter to Governor Jay Inslee stating that they will not, the sheriffs, all 38 other sheriffs, would not enforce any unconstitutional mandates. And so with that going forward, that is huge news. All we hear about is the state of Washington, how blue it is, and so on. Well, the sheriff being the last line of defense for we the people, that is very big news. And so he was talking a little bit about not only what that means, but he has some other information that we need to listen very closely to.
Yes, now it was 39 counties, and there was actually 37 sheriffs assigned it. One didn't because he hadn't been officially appointed yet. And then the King County sheriff didn't sign it because of being an appointed sheriff. And the letter actually was, probably didn't cover all the stuff, but what they said was, in short, that they weren't going to enforce mandatory vaccination laws. I have gotten word that these camps are being instructed throughout Washington. And I stress this, I don't have actual proof of that at this point. It's what I've been told, that camps are being constructed. Now, the excuse they're going to say is for these camps, and we had one here in our county, and everybody was thinking it was a concentration camp, and that kind of stuff. And so we got looking into it. And really what it was some trailers set up behind the locked gates and stuff at the county fairgrounds, so that if volunteer firemen, because we have fire season around, if they were tested positive for COVID and didn't want to go home to their family and take a risk, they'd pass it on. They were able to stay in these trailers and quarantine there, but it was a volunteer thing. But nobody gave a press release on it at the time they put them in there. And you had a lot of people feeling that it was a concentration camp, that it was the government was setting up.
A lot of speculation.
Pardon me?
A lot of speculation.
Absolutely.
People just guessing. Here's the thing that I'm concerned about those camps, and that is, I don't know if you're paying attention, but over in Australia, they built 2 new facilities, one to host 34,000, one to host 32,000, and these are for the non-vaccinated people. But what the big thing that caught my attention is each one of those camps, each one of those facilities has an infirmary and a laboratory right next to it. And I said, man, that's just like what the Nazis did, man. And you're trying not to make those parallels, but it's hard not to when we see everything going on. This is like a worldwide Nazi event is what it looks like. And people, we could joke about it and stuff, but the truth is, if you really pay attention to what's going on, this is a violation of our Nuremberg codes. This is a worldwide event. This is the Great Reset. And every single person is being forced into it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't have enough information to say for sure that's what's going on, but I think that's what they're going to tell you anyway, is for volunteer quarantine and that type of stuff. But my understanding is that they were under construction on one of the Indian reservations, which kind of boggles my mind why it'd be on an Indian reservation.
Yeah.
But assume it is, that apparently the people working on the construction walked off. So
the Indian reservation, if they put anything like this on an Indian reservation, they aren't under the U.S. Constitution.
Well, that is the loophole. But here's my thing. After everything that a lot of Indians went through, why the heck on God's green earth would you allow the government to build anything on your reservation that is a blowback to the history that you had with this government? I don't understand it. That is crazy.
Well, that might have been why people walked off, and the job isn't done fully constructed. Now, I can't even tell you for sure that in fact is true, but that's what I was told. I can assure you that I'm going to be looking into it, though. But like you mentioned in Australia, I mean, good intentions start out volunteer type thing. It can be changed real quick. And my concern is if you listen to our so-called president and the direction he's going, I can tell you that nothing's impossible. Nothing's impossible.
Oh, yeah.
As far as them doing the reset of moving back into socialism. Because that's our game.
Well, critical thinking skills is for survival purposes, and situational awareness is absolutely essential right now, because what anybody tells you, I don't care who they are, if it doesn't, I mean, just, little alarm bells are going off, or, just thinking on your own, especially with situational awareness, where could this go? What could happen?
Exactly.
What is it? The animals out in the animal kingdom, they don't have situational awareness. What are they? They're a meal. Yeah. And so it's quite frankly, that is terrifying to me, what you just said.
Well, it's hard when they control the social media platforms. They control all of the media, so they control the narrative. And if anybody dares speak out, they discredit you, they smear you, they attack you. Eric Clapton, just for sharing this story about him getting the vaccine, said he lost the use of his arms for 3 weeks. And they attacked the guy just for sharing his own personal experience. But that just shows you at what level the media is willing to go through. They're part of this big agenda. There's no doubt about it. And they control the narrative.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I had COVID here a couple months ago. And I had it for about 2 weeks. And it got pretty serious. So my wife convinced me to check myself into the hospital, and I did. Surprise, surprise, it tested positive for COVID. Of course, they can't tell the difference on their test between COVID or the flu. Right. Not a lot of people died from the flu recently. But anyway, I checked myself in after about 4 days in there. I told them I wanted to go home. They said I couldn't. I needed and I said, have you heard what a lawsuit is? And then I asked the doctor, are you keeping me here against my will? Well, no. And I said, I'll sign the release. I'm leaving. Because when I went in there, I told them, no shot and no ventilator.
No ventilator, yes.
And I don't know if I'd ended up on a ventilator in there, but I had my suspicion. Now, the staff, the nurses and those folks, outstanding people. I mean, they're trying to do their job. And you can even see some of those today giving up their jobs because they don't want to get that shot.
78,000.
Yeah. So that kind of tells you something. These people are in the field.
What did they know that we don't know?
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, I went home. Wife got me back on my feet, and I'm doing great. So I have no interest in getting the shot. If somebody wants to get it, like I said before, go for it. No problem. But you're right. But you're right also, you don't have to. And
My body, my choice. Isn't that what it is?
yeah, that's what they say, except when it comes to this.
Yeah, of course.
Our governor, this is no joke, guys. Our governor, Inslee, in order to encourage you to get a shot, you get a joint, a marijuana. No,
Well, I don't know. That one sounds a lot better than ours. It's trying to give us $1 million. But you know what? Why people aren't standing back and going, why are they being so persistent? Why are they doing such crazy stunts? We had $1 million lotto here. Your guy had a joint. We had Bill de Blasio handing out hamburgers. You know, I'm like, you got to question what's going on here.
Well,
I'm gonna grab some and show you real quick while you're talking.
Yeah, Oregon's giving out a $50 gift certificate to get a shot. No, it's crazy. Of course, one of the questions I'm curious if Fauci and Gates and some of these people have stock in vaccine. Would not be surprised.
This is the good thing about coming from the healthcare industry. Hydroxychloroquine, see?
Yep.
I got a lot of friends that are doctors, so.
Yeah, I use some of that. But no, it's sad how our country's going right now, and I really do believe, and it's moving fast. I mean, it's not like you can sit back and ponder it for a year or two. Now, it's going to be on us before we know it. And they've already the government has made big strides. Now, you got Biden, he's telling these organizations or corporations that they need to have their people get shots. Then they come out with these vaccine COVID passports, which is, it reminds me.
Is that not a violation of your Magna Carta? Is that right? Is that what it's called? Your right to freedom?
Well, yeah, it violates your First Amendment rights and several other things, but other rights. But wasn't that kind of what Hitler did? But they put a tattoo on it? Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know
control the media.
Yeah. And it's just sad where our country's going, and what we all need to be patriots and good Americans and stand up against this nonsense. If they don't get any pushback, they're going to roll right in. And that's already been doing some of that. First they started off scaring the living hell out of people with this pandemic. And then once they got them convinced that, boy, you got to wear that mask, you got to hunker down in your house for 14 days and all of this stuff. Now they got this mandatory vaccination. And unfortunately, you got, say, a mother with 3 kids, a single mother with 3 kids, no other income. They're forced into this. It's not them willingly doing it. They're forced into getting the vaccination. Now, there's a lot of them that are not doing it, but I can guarantee a good group of them that got the vaccination didn't want it. But they're only doing it out of survival. So they have a paycheck. And
that's how they get you.
Sorry. Sheriff Songer, you said something before that it just kind of struck curiosity nerve here. You talked about deputizing the public. Do you have something like that going on now that you could go ahead and start deputizing now and maybe training deputies for various different neighborhoods, neighborhood watch type of thing? Or where can people go? Can they start doing that now? Can you address that more?
Yeah, I'm happy you brought that up. I have approximately 150 prosecutors that I've sworn in. Now, they don't have arrest authority. They are crime prevention. This is a partnership with the citizens and along community policing. They're to observe, document, and report. If they see what they think a crime is, I allow them to carry firearms in uniform, but they have to go through the NRA qualification, classroom, and shooting qualified in order to do that.
Nice.
I have 6 pilots that volunteer their time that fly for our county, and they're special deputies. And I've got 6 pound handlers that are special, that are posse members that hunt down problem cougars and bears, that create a public safety issue or livestock or domestic pets. And we have cougars that come right in here. So, in fact, we got one that was right behind the PUD building in a neighborhood where there's small kids. Because that cat is not going to care whether it's a kid, deer, whatever, it's food. In any event, we have those programs. Then we have a search and rescue group that also works on the sheriff. So we have a number of volunteers, and I have a number of contacts out in the community. My 7th year as sheriff, I'm very blessed to be sheriff in this community. I get a lot of support. I get some pushback, but I get a lot of support because I'm sticking up for their constitutional rights and liberties. And that's the way it should be. Every sheriff should be.
Yes.
There was another sheriff that mentioned something that the legislature, and maybe it's just in California, or I don't know if it's everywhere, the legislator legislated that sheriffs could no longer deputize.
Yeah, well, under our Washington state law, I have that authority. I don't know how California law reads on that, but under the Washington state constitution, I do have the authority to deputize. And like with our posse members, like I say, they don't have arrest authority. But if I had an emergency, I would grant them that arrest authority for that limited period of time. And,
So, Sanger, is there a fear that they could take that power from you, what Linda was just talking about? Is that a fear?
I think that would, well, I think it would take a change in the Constitution, in the Washington State Constitution.
Okay.
Not that there is some out there who would try, that's for sure. But I have 14 months and 3 weeks left to go on my 2nd term to retire. I'll have 52 years in the business by the time I'm done. I'm hoping after I retire, in my opinion, Sheriff Mack is an outstanding sheriff. He's cutting history in this country, and he's doing a lot for the citizens of our individual counties and state and across the country. I'm hoping I can help Sheriff Mack out after I retire, going around to different sheriffs in different states and trying to convince them that you don't have to worry about your government. You might piss off your county commissioner. And yes, our county commissioner is not happy with me. In fact, I told them that if they could fire me, they'd probably do so. They didn't disagree. They do control my budget. Now, that might be why some sheriffs are a little concerned about taking hard approaches. But what I have found that if a Board of County Commissioners were to do that, I don't think our current boards, even though they're not happy with it, would do anything like that, try to play games with the budget. But if they did, you'd be out with the media and talking to the public, letting them know why they're not getting the services they're getting, and it's out of vindictiveness and those kind of things. Public likes to know somebody's got their back. Their constitutional liberties and rights are being protected. God-given constitutional rights.
Yes.
They want to know that. They also want to know that they have a sheriff that's not going to buckle and run when the heat comes on. And I'm just proud to serve the citizens of Lickitung County. I'm very blessed to be the sheriff here. Now, like I say, I've only got a short time to go, and that'll make the governor happy and some of the others. But,
well, you can give him hell in that short period of time, that's for sure.
And plan on afterwards.
Well, we
you
are
got like this, our local sheriff. So we live in a small town, and one of our residents fired up BLM got them to come to our little town from the city in a large caravan of them. We heard they were coming. The sheriff rounded up all the business owners, and a lot of residents said, look, there ain't enough of us to handle them. So I'm going to tell you right now, you guys have the right to do whatever it takes to protect your family, protect your property, protect everything. We lined up the streets side by side with the guns in their hands. They drove up. They stayed in a designated little area. We didn't have no problems. I tell you, that's what I'm looking for, my sheriff. Help the people.
Well, we had 4 Black Lives Matter demonstrations in our county. And we made it very clear to them that if they violate the law in any way, shape, or form, we're there to protect them. They have a constitutional right under the First Amendment. Even though I may not agree with their position, they still have that entitled to that right.
Yes, sir.
So I said, if you violate the law, you will soon find out this is not Portland, Oregon. You will go to jail.
Yes, sir.
We are so blessed to have you, Sheriff Songer. We are definitely at the end of our show here. And so it's been a blessing to have you on and everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you guys. You're patriots, true patriots. God bless you.
Well, you are on Seavine, AM 590. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Be back next week with another state and another sheriff.
Thank you.
Hey, folks, just a quick reminder that back in 2008 and 9, a lot of people lost all of their retirement savings and their 401ks and IRAs because they did not own gold and silver. Yeah, that's right. Gold and silver protects you from a market crash. So do yourself a favor, protect your retirement by purchasing gold and silver. You can go to moneymetals.com, reach out to them, and they will help you set yourself up to protect you and your family from having to start all over from scratch. If you're a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code PIMPY, P-I-M-P-Y, and they will send along with your order a free half ounce of silver. So folks, do yourself a favor, head on over to moneymetals.com and protect you and your family from a market crash, as well as inflation.
An aging parent can be healthy, living independently one day, then too disabled to remain at home the next. Then you discover that Medicare only pays for hospitalization, doctor bills, and medication, but not for care in a skilled nursing home. Hi, I'm Ron Osk from the Elder Law Center. I'd like to talk to you about Medi-Cal coverage for the elderly. Today, the cost of maintaining patients in skilled nursing can exceed $7,500 a month. For most of us, that's not affordable, nor do we normally have insurance providing this type of coverage. But under most circumstances, seniors can receive financial assistance from Medi-Cal paying for this care. However, without proper planning, the effect of the family's financial holdings is disastrous. A family's wealth is quite literally reduced to zero before Medi-Cal benefits kick in. For over 20 years, I've been helping families obtain Medi-Cal assistance without the total loss of financial assets. For a free consultation and our contact information, please visit our website, elderlawcenter.net. That's elderlawcenter.net. Thanks for listening.
Hello, Patriots. This is Linda Forsythe, and I am reaching out to you. This is a call to action. All those who love their country and want to see some change, this is your chance to be able to do something. So I'm requesting that you please go to the cvine.com website. That's c-vine.com website and keep on top of all the various different news stories that all our volunteers post for you to keep you on top of the news. And then not only just watch and see what the news says, but do some fact checking. Make certain that everything is as it should be. Don't expect anybody to spoon feed to you the news. When you're there also, we request that you please sign up and become a member. The entire website is free of charge. There is not anything you need to pay to get to any part of this website or to interact with it. What we request is that you do a donation in becoming a member. It's a monthly member to be able to help with our expenses. Nobody gets paid. cvine.com, Cvine News Network, is a charitable trust. It is a foundation that was created for you, for we the people. And all of it is put together so we all can come together to give uncensored news, and we know what is the truth. The other thing I request is you please go to the section where you can go ahead and sign up as a volunteer. go ahead and donate your time. And we also have one-time donation. We also have a section for military tribunals. Remember, our volunteers, when the tribunals are going on, we send them, or even I go and watch them specifically, and we report on them, providing transcripts and so on. So hope to see you there. Keep in touch and sign up for our newsletter so I can write to you personally. And then also, heaven forbid, any of the social media goes down, then that might be an issue. At least we have a way to be able to keep in touch with you, to be able to keep close. Go out there, patriots, stand strong, hold the line, the line, the line, the line, the line, the line.